IPMNation.com.
Live from the Transitional Radio Uplink in Cuenca, Ecuador, you're listening to All Natural Being with guest host Henry G. Noel. What's the G stand for? Giddy up on IPMNation.com. Here's Henry.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this, the 358th episode of Brian Brody's All Natural Being, the #1 rated show on IPMNation.com, and brought to you by Transitional Radio. Now, we're live this evening on IPMNation.com, Transitional Radio's Facebook and YouTube pages, with Fly on the Wall video on Facebook and YouTube, with rebroadcasts on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and a whole host of others. Now, we're broadcasting live this evening from our international uplink studio in Cuenca, Ecuador, and we want to thank our good friends at Wirecast for making it possible for us to be broadcasting live and globally. So we also want to thank our trusted listeners for, without you, there just wouldn't really be a reason for me to be here this evening. So we want to thank those listening on live radio and those listening to our rebroadcasts. And we also want to thank our Fly on the Wall video listeners. We do find it far more enjoyable having you participating in the thread and sharing your ideas. So to all of our listeners from all over the globe, from places like North America, Central and South America, and from Western and Eastern Europe, from Western, Central, East, South, and Southeast Asia, Africa, and Oceania. Thank you all for trusting in us and for investing your valuable time. You know, we're quite aware of the many ways you could be spending your valuable time. So thank you for actually choosing to spend it with us. We greatly do appreciate it. It's wonderful having you here. Now, my name is Henry Noel, guest hosting for our good friend Brian Brody, while he entertains the medical world with his cerebral humor. I'm thrilled to be filling in for our virtual hitchhiker. So from 2 degrees south of the equator, where the girth of the earth exceeds the diet scale, let's put it that way. I want you to understand that regardless of where you are on this fabulous globe, your life is still your jungle. And in spite of what you think and believe, you're still the one that has to carve out your path, one step at a time, and rip out the underbrush, suppressing your passion to live life the way you want. Why cow down for the sport of others? You were dealt this hand, so why not just play it with all the passion you can find and play it the way you always dreamt you would if only you were given a chance? Well, by God, this is your chance. So no one is more qualified to control your life than you are. So why cave into the pundits who presume they are in control of you? Why allow the opinions of others to derail you from your all-natural being? Don't get caught up in all of the moronic insanity others use to demoralize you. Use your primal scream to stand tall and proud, front and center, and don't place yourself in second place. You're better than that. And we're here to ensure you have your day in the sun as your friendly force, placing your heart's highest priority top of the list, reinstating the true wisdom and wallop of your inner whisper, pushing you to terminate the turmoil in your life, limit the liability of your luggage, and streamline your sensibilities so you can face this crazy world head on and out brutal. All of this so you can bring on your own gold once and for all. Now, we trust everyone has had an enjoyable Thursday thus far, and we wish to thank you for joining us on this Thursday evening. So I guess, are you ready? We'll get into this, I guess, pretty quick. Are you comfortable? Kick off your shoes. Let's get the evening underway, shall we? I'm going to go ahead and get into the thread and say hi to our Fly on the Wall video listeners and see who happens to be joining us this evening. Okay, so let's see what we have here. Heather, welcome. It's great to see you. Wayne, thank you. Lee Raleigh, welcome. Alice, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate that. And Candace, hi, how you doing? Paul McFeely, good evening. How are you? How's Ireland doing? John, how are you, sir? And again, Candace and Alice, Jenny, how are you? Thank you for joining in. Appreciate it. Yep, a big hello and a good evening to everybody. David Ray Bowman, welcome, welcome, welcome. It's great to have you. Rita, good to see you online downstairs. It's great. Thank you. All right. Well, great. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. I really appreciate you tapping into it and decided to come on and spend some time up here on the show with us. So I really do appreciate that. And I wanted to do some things tonight. And this is actually to be thrown out, start talking about, and opinions are about all of this. And so I put up this mental causation as a topic for this evening, only because I know it has expanded so far from what it was originally when Rene Descartes came up with it back in the 1600s. And so I wanted to talk about this because it really is appropriate for today on the expansion of what we're doing and how we are relating nowadays. Mental causation was actually a theory that Descartes came up with, where he separated the physical and material versus the physical. And so we're dealing with the body, that there was that the body was the mind, and there's no way that aspect could affect the physical aspect within the body. Well, which is all well and good. I mean, that was his theory back in the 1600s. Had no reason to doubt that. And then we dealt with for us the reason I say that there's no commonality to that anymore. It doesn't really fit. Is when you look at martial artists, they can control their pulse, they can control their breathing, they can control their heart rate, and their meditation capabilities are phenomenal when they really get into it. Also with snipers, I mean, they actually can pull the trigger between heartbeats. I mean, they can control their hearts. So this whole concept that the mind cannot control the body or cause an effect on the body, we know has gone by the wayside. And that's an issue that I wanted to make sure that we try to cover, because I'd love to get your opinions on it. Now, in 1984, Keith Campbell came up with a proposal that he said that first there were four aspects to his proposal. One, that the human body is a material thing, and then he said that the human mind is a spiritual thing. He said the mind and the body interact, which went against what Descartes had said back in the 1600s. But then he said the spirit and matter do not interact. Well, I think anybody that practices medicine or acupuncture and Jin Shin Jitsu or Qigong, I think realizes that that's probably not so true, that the mind or the spirit can affect. And I know part of the practice that I had back when I was back in New Mexico was treating post-traumatic stress disorder, which with acupuncture and Qigong and several other modalities like Reiki and just whatever we did at the time, and found that by treating the body, the mind, and the spirit, it was far more successful than just treating it as a mental condition. And then when you threw in the other component of family members, treating the family members along with it, it makes a big difference, because now they are being modified or changed into the acceptance of the person that suffers from the post-traumatic stress. So that is, today so common, it's so acceptable. And so I think that like I said, I'm curious about your opinions on it, because I mean, I know what I experienced, and I know what some of the people that are in the alternative medicine field is, or the natural medicine field, as far as I'm concerned. But now we can throw in another component, which I love nowadays, is personal coherence, which when you add to it well, Fred, I should explain that. Personal coherence is where it's believed that we have a synergetic connection between the heart and the brain, and also between the heart of one person and the heart of another. And this is that idea, and where I come from and experience this is when you walk into a crowded room and you look across the room and you see somebody there, and just for some reason you have an instant like or an instant dislike for that person, and you have no idea why. You've never met them, but there's just something about it. That's that synergetic coherence. That's that synergetic connection that people have. And they're showing it to be more and more prevalent, and that people who have it and allow it and practice it, one, have strong family units. Their communication is so much more open and honest because they don't hide anything. And so this is the aspect. So when we go back from the 1600s, from Descartes, who said that the mind and the body were totally separate, they had no control over each other, to nowadays where we deal with mind, body, and spirit, and synergetic connections between the heart and the brain, and the heart of others, and then into the shamanic world, where you deal with energy fields connecting between people. And a large part of my ability to diagnose people is in the energy field. So this is where I come from. This is the world I lived in the healing process. Has been through acupuncture and through medical qigong, through Jin Shin Jitsu, through Reiki, and through shamanic work, as far as dealing with the energy field and really working hard on it as a communication between someone else's body and myself. It was very interesting. Hi, Mary. How are you? Welcome to the show. So, anyway, Candace, you're having troubles, huh, with the video also. Anyway, let us know. And so this is where I want to go. And like I said, I really would appreciate your opinions, your experiences with this, because I find it to be real interesting. As an aspect in the act of healing, or being able to provide the source for the body to heal itself, being able to tap into the energy, being able to manipulate the energy field. And like I said, just a short time ago, it wasn't even close to being accepted as a possibility, that there was no way that the mind could control the body or influence the body in any way. To now where we have all sorts of evidence on showing how the body can actually be controlled by the mind. And so, yeah, and I know with Shane, I think was on, I don't know if he's still there, but the whole martial arts aspect of it all. I mean, I know he practices that a lot, and actually can control his heart rate. And I've watched him do that, which is really kind of interesting to see. I've never been able to do that, but that people tell me that yes, you can. It just takes practice, and I think that's just the same thing as being sensitive with the touch. That it just takes practice to be able to develop that technique, and that part of it I can understand, the touch side. So anyway, again, your opinions, and I'm open to whatever you guys got as suggestions, because I think it's very important to understand that there's far more to us than we realize. And cutting us so short in our capabilities to heal, for one, to change our thoughts, to change our minds, in order to be able to distance field, be able to work with someone else's energy field from thousands of miles away. This is all being evidenced, and the government has done a lot of work with all of this, and so. Yeah, I mean, I believe it. I've seen it progress. I've seen it change, and again, to go from 1600s, where wasn't no connection at all, but there's no way this was an influence, to nowadays we believe mind, body, spirit. We believe that the components within the heart, that it can actually help and communicate directly. And so, yeah, I think that there's a lot we don't understand. And like I said, I was curious about what your input would be as to the whole concept and the idea of it. If we're going to talk outside the box, we may as well talk outside the box. Marcio, good evening to you. How are you? Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. Now, remember, this show is going to be, we'll be winding down here at about 25 after the hour, and then slowly we'll be this way. We're off the air by the 28-minute mark, so we can switch over, and then we're going to premiere Thinking Re-envisioned, which is really kind of exciting for me. Nerve-wracking, of course, but it's going to be exciting. So get into more of what the show is all about and what all we're trying to do, and I'll go through that. And, give you guys just an introduction to it today, I think would be the best way to go about doing that. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and get into that and see how things are going with all you guys. So anyway, back to the topic today. which we, like I said, we're talking about the the ability for the brain. It's called mental causation, where the belief back in the 1600s was your mind could not control the body. It was two separate things. The mind dealt with the immaterial side of it. The body dealt with the material side, and there was no way that these were going to be able to be influenced by one another. And then in 1984, Keith Campbell came up and said that the human body is a material thing and that the mind is a spiritual thing, but that the mind and the body did interact. But then he went on to say that the spirit and matter don't interact. And nowadays we know that now between mind, body, and spirit, the healing goes on it's quite prolific, and it's extremely effective. So by taking the mind, body, and the spirit, and utilizing the fact that the body does operate or is influenced by the mind and the thoughts and the spirit of the person, and then we throw into that now personal coherence, which is the synergetic connection between the brain and the heart, and also between the heart and the heart of someone else. So you're dealing with a double communication here, and there's a lot of research being done testing this out. And like I said, it gives us that idea of why you can walk into a crowded room and instantly like or instantly dislike somebody, because it's an energetic connection that we have. And for some reason, either it's a recognition of the energy of that person, or it is something totally different. But they are trying to research it. They are trying to pull this off and do what needs to be done to validate it all. But like I said, in my practice that we had in New Mexico, we've experienced that treating post-traumatic stress disorder. That the psychological evaluations and the psychological help that the person was getting just didn't help them, and we found that about 2/3 of the time it just didn't help. And so what we did was, in researching it ourselves, just based on practicing it, we realized that when a person has a physical injury, that's a body issue, and that's not a mental issue, and therefore treating someone that has, let's say they've been shot, dealing with them on a psychological level, it doesn't help them really get better. And so we noticed that. And so what we did was we would support the body. Of course, we'd go ahead and help it to do the repairs, but then we would tonify or really, really try to enhance the spirit and the mental aspect of it to try to support the body. And then we found out that if somebody came back from the Middle East, and let's say they were ordered to go into a village, and somewhere along the line a child was injured or was killed, that's a spiritual thing. That's a spiritual issue. They're going against somebody's spirit. And that's not going to be a mental thing much. It's part of it is, but not the whole thing. But we have to treat the body and the mind in order to support the spirit side of it. And so now when somebody just absolutely does something that does affect their mental capacity, then the psychological work does seem to do it. But by doing it and treating as a mind, body, spirit aspect, and treating the entire person as a whole, and then treating the people in the family that associated with them, to let them that the person that was who they were before they left probably won't be back. I mean, segments of them are, but they lost part of themselves in that whole experience. And this is the same thing with anybody: first responders, firemen, police officers, rape victims, molested children. All of them suffer the same type of capacity, depending on what it is that they have to deal with in order to get through this. And it's not easy to just say, well, yep, talk it over, talk it through. You don't want to relive it. I mean, you simply don't want to relive it. You want to assimilate it. You want to take it in and accept it. But you don't want to have to keep talking about it, which is what talk therapy does. And what we did was simply get the energies to work together, mind, body, and spirit, to actually heal that person, to let that person heal and heal themselves. And it's much easier to accept and experience when you've had that kind of support. So that's where we're at. We're still fine. I think we've got 20 minutes after the hour, so I think we're doing good. Anyway, and if anybody's got any comments or opinions on this subject, it would be great. I'd love to see them. It's been it's a topic that I thought would actually fire up a lot of comment, but again, I think it just depends on the viewpoint or the belief that we have, or the belief system that we have, and that is part of the whole process. As we've been talking about belief systems, and we've been talking about guilt, and we've been talking about all of this stuff, and this is what ties into it, whether or not it's acceptable or not to people. But from experience and working in that natural medicine field, I have experienced a lot of this stuff personally, on how people can change, how people can modify themselves and actually be better and heal real well. I remember a patient when I was in acupuncture school and having to treat a person, and they were needle sensitive, so that I didn't really want to use any needles on them. But at the same time, we had to do something because their cervical and thoracic and lumbar spine was really messed up. And so simply applying and creating enough energy to place the energy inside the person and elongated it with the spine took that person from having to walk in with a walker to carrying the walker when she left for the treatment. So it was, and I've seen it happen. I've seen people just change because of the treatment. Another patient that had neuropathy from the knee down, couldn't feel anything. And I remember placing my hand on their hip and then touching their toe. And immediately they said, "Oh my gosh, I can feel heat in my toe." It's amazing how the stuff that we can actually do. Patricia, welcome. It's great to have you. Misty, hi, how are you? Just to fill you all in again, just to fill you up, take you up to speed. This we're doing all natural being until about the 28 minute mark, and then we're gonna shut down, and then we're gonna come back up again about 2 to 3 minutes later, I guess, and coming up with the premiere show of Thinking Re-envisioned. And so just to give you a heads up, so when all of a sudden we're gone, I mean, I'm not just going to disappear. I'll tell you guys goodbye, but then we'll come back, and you're welcome to please redial in. We got both the links that were posted earlier, so it'll be great to have you guys join us for the very first show, very first of my shows actually, the Thinking Re-envisioned. So Misty, hi, how are you? Thank you. It's great to see you. Thank you. Hi to you too. And so yeah, we have a lot of things that go on with us, and the reason I want to talk about this is because it is part of us that we don't really accept. We don't. Few people accept it. It's very tied into Western medicine. Here's what we've got, and this is what we do, and it's pharmaceuticals, and that's it. But I'm saying there's a whole lot out there that we don't understand, that we need to learn more about, and to bring that aspect into the program. So that we can understand how we have been held down in our ability to learn other stuff. We've been so busy learning what we've been taught from parents and teachers and the such, to developing a belief systems that we have a hard time trying to adjust to alternative ways of thinking. And so what we'll get into with Thinking Re-envisioned is exactly that. It's rethinking. Thinking of things, seeing the same thing, but thinking about it differently, and trying to put those into a better aspect. Mr. Matt Connerton, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here. Thank you for dropping in. Appreciate it. So this is really part of what I wanted to do, is sort of a lead in to when we get into Thinking Re-envisioned, because this covers a lot of the aspects that we don't really deal with. So and then we find it hard. Marcellus, hi, how are you? It's great to see you too. Man, I love it. Again, for Matt and for Marcellus and Misty, in case you missed it, Patricia, we will be tuning out here in about 2 minutes, and then we're going to switch over and come back in again as Thinking Re-envisioned. So this is what we're going to be doing. Alice says, I think what you're talking about is very interesting, and I believe we have very complex beings, and mind, body, and spirit are connected and work together. Thank you, Alice. Thank you. And I appreciate that, because I believe it really is. I mean, I've experienced it, I've seen it, I've worked with it, and I've watched people get much better. Hi, Marcellus. How are you? It's great to have you. Wow, it is so cool. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get ready to go. I'm going to attempt to go away and then come back again here in a couple of minutes, and we'll come up with Thinking Re-envisioned. At least this will be a great test to see if we can actually do this. So I'm testing my brother again, give him another little challenge. So anyway, all right, guys, we are going to call it a night, and we'll be back in about 3 minutes or so, 4 minutes, and with Thinking Re-envisioned. So please hang in there.
Hi, it's Brian Brody. Thank you so much. You've been listening to All Natural Being.
IPMNation.com.